Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's webinar series. Today is session 6. This month is session 6. Our highlights, our agenda today is going to be, as usual, some ideas highlights, briefly talking about re-indexing the database, how to do it, why to do it, when to do it, configuring a mailbox backup, essentially just a backup inbox folder in your email, and sort of the star of the show, the highlight of this month, introduction to custom portal themes. So essentially coming up with your own colors to portal themes. As usual, my name is Nick Room, a consultant here with RGR Innovations, presenting today. RGR is a partner of BMC Software. We've been in the business since 2004, specializing in ITSM and ITAM, doing implementation services A to Z, from design, discovery, implementation, configuration, and post-go-live support. So last month on our series, we went through, again, the usual 5 ideas highlights enumerated here. We talked about working with broadcast. This was kind of a little bit of a new thing for us because we had generally recommended not using broadcasts due to some of its, I won't say limitations, but the way it was designed. So we kind of did some customization around that to make it a little bit more friendly and usable. So we had discussions around there. Dealing with UI customizations. So what consists of customization, how to identify them, how to deal with them. Again, introducing some customizations that we had done as well to make administration easier. And then briefly discuss the different types of business rules, which recap and spoiler alert, there are only 2 after saving on screen. All the other ones should be avoided. That recording is available at rginnovations.com/webinars. Likewise, this recording will be available up on our website tomorrow or the day after. You know, it takes us a couple days to sort of download the recording, spruce it up a little bit, and then put it up on our website. Next month, we're going to be covering the topics here. So as usual, some ideas. We're going to be talking about UI design, specifically around like self-service. So this is, good practices for how to configure your consoles and your portals, maybe even your forms, to make things easier to use. So the focus is going to be on self-service, but of course the considerations can be used on any UI designs. We're going to give an update on our custom portal themes, which we're introducing today, sort of giving you an update on what's been done in the last month, next month. And as well, our hope is to have published a document on how to do these customizations for you that we'll be posting on the BMC communities, probably at the time of next month's webinar. We'll give a brief introduction on SLAs, how they work, how you can kind of tweak them to get better reporting metrics or business rule capabilities. And then we're going to look at business rules as quick templates, kind of a favorite topic of mine. So if you know, quick templates are the ability to have a sort of a shortcut to a common type of issue. There's certain limitations to the quick templates functionality. So oftentimes I like to use business rules instead of quick templates to achieve the same functionality. The registration link is down below. I fully expect you guys to hand type it out because this is just on the screen here. Of course, that's sarcasm in my voice there. I will be putting in the chat the registration link for it, as well as the links to the ideas from this week. And they will be, the registration link will be emailed out, I believe, on the automated email you guys get at the completion of this webinar. Okay, so ideas highlights for this week. So these 5 here. So request a supervisor address book field type. So this one here is can be beneficial because essentially, especially this is especially useful. Let me back up a little bit. This is especially useful and important if your address book is external, such as to Active Directory, which is commonly the case. And if you've ever configured your address book externally, you've seen the configuration, you could create a manager field and then add in a manager name to it. However, the issue is, and I'm just going to switch screen here to it because I believe on the idea it might these are the wrong ones. Interesting. Okay, I'm just going to go back here and talk about that. I must have missed the first. Must have missed the first thing. So the issue with the address book linking to manager is when it's external is Active Directory, for example, stores the manager attribute as a fully qualified name. And what that looks like is it looks like something like OU equals Nicola Room, comma, CN equals users, comma, DC equals Nick, comma, DC equals .ca or something like that, right? And so when you look at it in FootPrints, that's how it's presented because that's how the information is stored in Active Directory. But of course, we can't use that in a meaningful way, especially when we're talking about approvals, right? Hey, I want to get the end user requested something in self-service. I want to get the end user's manager to approve. That's where this feature request comes in, because right now the answer is we can't really do that if your address book is external. And assuming that you're using the out-of-box manager field in Active Directory to track managers, which everyone does. I might put an update to this in next month's webinar or a little bit further down the line, because we've been working on doing some custom code to essentially strip out that extra syntax and then make that usable, which is essentially what this feature request is all about, is having FootPrints strip out the fully qualified name part of it and only keep the manager. The next feature request is actually the next one is about relationships. So when you're on a form and you click on the link control and you do, link to, if that link control only has one relationship type and that relationship type is only used once, let's say ticket to contact. If you do the link to, you still get the pop-up that says what relationship type are you looking to use, and the pop-up is essentially useless because there's only one, right? So that feature request is, well, if there's only one, don't give me the pop-up that lets me choose which relationship to use, just automatically send me. The next two ideas relate to round robin. So round robin was a feature that was introduced to FootPrints about 2 or 3 years ago now. And it works, but it's pretty basic at its core. If you have 4 people in the team, person 1, person 2, person 3, person 4, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It does not have any kind of intelligence to it. So these two feature requests are to bring in sort of the more common logic that you would want or expect in round robin. So the first one is about taking account the number of ticket assignments already assigned. So if I use, I'll use our internal service desk team here. So there's myself, there's Layla, there's Adam, there's Andy, and there's Ron. And if I have 5 tickets and Layla has 20 tickets, and let's say, I'll keep it simple. We all have 5 tickets and Layla has 20 tickets. Round robin is still going to assign tickets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even though Layla has more tickets than everyone else. So that first feature request is about saying, hey, if someone has more than everyone else, or if the number is uneven, skip them until the number gets even. Now, there's obviously benefits to that. Hey, I don't overwork Layla. there's also potentially downsides, like many feature requests or functionalities. You got to be careful how you use them, right? Because now Layla could be keeping tickets open unnecessarily to inflate her numbers and not get new tickets. The second one, a little bit harder, more important, basically only assign tickets to someone if they're logged into FootPrints. Now that capability in of its own doesn't exist today, but there is something similar that exists today in that you can use the FootPrints calendar to dictate if someone is available or not, and then have round robin work on their availability. But it only goes off the calendar if you're using the calendar. It does not go whether the user is logged in or not. So if the user's not logged in because they're on vacation or they're out sick, you're still getting tickets. So that second part of that two features there, the fourth one here on the list is saying, only assign tickets to someone if they're logged into the system. Again, kind of like the first one, there's ways around that. Someone could just not log into the system and not get tickets, but you can't design for all those little abuses. The last feature request, voter delegation. So in the approval engine, when you're using approvals, whether you're using them for change management, knowledge management, service catalog, service request, or a custom process you designed, once an approval goes out to a specific person, only that person can approve or reject. We generally build into our design, sort of a manager who could override the approval process and essentially skip it or cancel it. But there's no way to do delegation. So if someone is unavailable for whatever reason, right, you can't say, hey, I'm going to approve in place of them. So having the ability to delegate approvals would be highly beneficial. So that's our ideas highlights for this month. Let me get those URLs here pasted into the chat for you. Okay. All right, so we're going to go on to our first topic of this session here, which is reindexing the database. So for that, I'm going to switch over to back to my browser. So I do have a knowledge article here from BMC. Again, I'll post that link in the chat here. That basically explains the reindexing and then provides the script down below as a download. So it's a SQL file. You would open up SQL Studio Manager, you run the script, it reindexes the database, takes I've never run it on very, very large databases, but generally it takes a minute or less to run. Ideally, you'd want to run it in some kind of a maintenance window because this is a maintenance task, but it doesn't impact FootPrints if you're using it live. Reindexing the database will have some performance benefits, especially if you've never reindexed your database before or you've been running FootPrints for a long time. So it can have some performance benefits. Oh, this article was helpful. You're welcome. Okay, so yeah, you can see some benefits to the reindexing, especially in process-heavy applications. So like publishing containers, and ironically enough, publishing containers often is what will generally sort of trigger you to do a reindex or what kind of should. So I'll walk you through a little bit what that process looks like. So you download the file, and you know what? As I'm doing that, I'm going to give you guys the link just in case some of you guys are on multiple screens and want to follow along. Oops, this one over here. Check. So once you've got this downloaded, the one SQL script, let's open that. So I'm going to take that, copy that, I'm going to go into one of my VMs, make think actually I don't have SQL open yet, so with that. All right, so SQL usually takes a minute or so here to open up. So you basically just paste it in. You paste it in, run it. You'll see the results down below. Usually starts around like the high 200 tables, kind of finishes in the mid 200s. You'll never get it back down to 0, but that's not really the goal anyways. So here, I'll paste it in here. And then basically you just execute that. And it'll go through and, I mean, I'm not a database expert here, but it'll recalculate all of the indexes in the database for you, and then you're done. So you can see here, 111 rows. Actually, that's because I forget which one I uncommented. There was something I uncommented here, basically tells you, because I had it re-index everything. I think I might be able to remove these two things here. Nope, even less. Okay, so but running this, depending how often you publish, right? If you're publishing once or twice a week, I might run this every 2 weeks, once a month. If less than that, it really depends on how often you're publishing, how complex your containers are, and how easy it is for you to run this. And you can even script this into a SQL job to run automatically overnight or something. There's no disadvantage to running this script too often, unless you're running it, every minute in the middle of the day while people are using FootPrints. But that's an extreme here. There's no issue with running this once a night even as part of a nightly maintenance job. And if you can script it into a SQL job to run automatically, go for it. Definitely, I would run this at least every couple months, especially if you are still, well, I mean, I hope you're publishing your containers once in a while because you're making improvements and tweaks and things like that. So this will help with some performance. Now, we run this pretty often, generally about once every 2 weeks. I would be curious if there's anyone in the audience here who has never re-indexed their database, and especially if you're a heavy user of FootPrints or been using it for a while, I'd be very curious to know from you guys, and maybe you can let us know in the either you can email me or in the survey response. Let me know if you've noticed much of an improvement. Because of course, like I said, I run it about every 2 weeks or so don't really notice a difference. Okay, so that's on the topic of re-indexing the database. And just so you know too, that script here has been the same for at least 6 or 7 years now that I've been using that script. So it once you download it, you don't really have to go back to the knowledge base and see if there's been updates to it. Okay, so our next topic of discussion is email inbox backup. And for that, what I'm going to show here is just sort of like the instructions that we've written in our own knowledge base for it. Now, you can do this a bunch of different ways, but essentially what this is creating a backup inbox folder in your email. So if I actually switch here to my email, which I should have had loaded already. Right, so I'm just going to pick, well, here, this is my test mailbox for FootPrints, right? And in healthy systems, it's empty. So what you want to do is you essentially want to create a mailbox folder in here on this mailbox. And anytime an email comes in to that mailbox, a copy of it gets put into that subfolder. And that's essentially, what I'm showing here. This is Exchange 2019. You log into the mailbox, create the rule to do that copy. And what that will do is every single email that comes in gets copied to that folder. Now, that does mean that your inbox is going to start growing, right? Because normally without this, the mailbox is always tiny because an email comes into the mailbox. FootPrints reads the email, processes it, and then deletes the email. So in a healthy system, the inbox is always empty, or has only a few emails from the last 60 seconds or so. So doing this, every single email that comes in is going to stay there as a copy in that separate subfolder. So you may want to clean it out either manually from time to time, or maybe have an automated job, emails older than a month delete, or something like that. The reason for doing this, there are several reasons for that, some specific to FootPrints and some are just general good practice in any kind of ticketing tool that reads an email box, whether it's an ITSM tool, an ITAM tool, or anything else. So firstly, it allows you to see the email in its original source. Regardless of what system is reading the mailbox, when you look at that email in ticket form, you're not seeing the original thing. You're seeing the way the tool is presenting the email to you. Most tools do a good job of presenting it to you, especially with the last few updates of FootPrints, where inline images, for example, are now actually inline. Before, inline images were down in the attachments. If someone sent in an email with like a dozen inline images to it, that's a really hard way to read the email, and you start losing context. So if you have the backup, well, you can go back and look at what the original email looked like to get better context. So that's one example. Another example related to FootPrints, you guys have probably seen a few times, especially if you have like the incoming error emails sent to you as opposed to just the end user. You might be getting emails that says, access denied, couldn't update ticket 1234. It doesn't tell you who, it doesn't tell you what, it just says, at 2:22 p.m. email received, access denied, right? Well, now with having a backup like this, you can go back to your backup folder and find the email at 2:22, and now you see who sent it, you see what the email was. So now you can get a better understanding of, is this normal and I can ignore it? Or is this someone that did something they shouldn't have done? Or is this, I didn't think of this scenario, I need to modify the way I handle emails and FootPrints. So there's a few examples of those. There's the access denied ones, there's ticket couldn't be found, ticket couldn't be created, might even be a few other ones there. But those types of emails are generally impossible to do anything with unless you have the source email. And even if you go to the log file in FootPrints, you're not going to get any additional information, because the information you get in that email, that error email, is the exact same thing as what you see in the log file. You don't see the who, you don't see the what. So having this backup here, very, very useful. Now that kind of segues into a separate email topic. Regardless of whether you do this backup or not here, I always recommend the administrator of the system. So you guys on the call here, as FootPrints administrators, I always recommend you guys have access to all the mailboxes that FootPrints is reading. Whether you just have the username and password that you can log in through a web interface, or whether you have them tied into your Outlook client so that it shows up in a separate folder. That way, at a glance, you can look at those mailboxes, and if one of your users says, "Hey, there's no emails have come in for a while. Is there a problem?" Or, "Hey, there's an email loop." I'm sure there's lots of people right now saying, "Oh yeah." If you have direct access to the mailbox, much quicker and easier way to deal with that than having to go to your email teams or to someone else and say, "Hey, can you log into the mailbox for me because I don't have access." All right, so that's it for inbox backup. I know the title there might have been a little bit ambiguous. Hopefully that clears it up and you see the value to that. Optional if you guys want to do it, but very, very useful for troubleshooting purposes. So our next topic for today is kind of a highlight, and the team and I have been working very hard the last few weeks on this, especially the last few days, kind of cramming things in. I was kind of hoping to have a little bit more for this time around, but kind of realizing things are very not complex, but there's a lot of elements. So that's why I've kind of split it up into, we're going to do the intro this week and show you what we got, and then provide an update next month, and hopefully have some documentation published that you guys can take advantage of in creating your own themes. So it's a very popular feature request that's been out there. Hey, I want to create my own themes. I don't like this orange, or I don't, I want a dark theme. I don't like the white background. And, the answer has always been, well, unfortunately, you're stuck with, these themes over here. And well, if you don't like the orange, we can give you black if you want. We can do things like that, but beyond those colors, we can't do anything else because BMC doesn't have a way for us to modify these, or at least or configure these, within the application. Now that's in contrast to version 11 and prior that did have that. So if any of you guys, used to be on version 11 or remember those days, it had a way to do that. And if I switch over to my other VM here, so this is FootPrints 11 for those of you who have never seen it. Very kind of early 2000s interface, but one of the nice things it had was the ability to change colors. If you don't like those colors, you could come over here and it would give you, some major points here, like, hey, the background. Well, you want a different color? Sure, I'll do yellow, save it, and I'll have yellow as my background, right? So very easy to do with these elements over here. There is a feature request for that. It's actually going to be on the list of highlighted ideas for next month to show you about. But of course, if you're eager, you can go and search for it on communities. So what we've tried to do, of course, I can't really give you something similar to this, but at least provide some way to get your own colors or something like that. And we've kind of done two themes. One is, we're using it for testing and learning, and the other one's something a little bit more presentable. So I'm going to start with the Mickey Mouse one here. That is what we've been using to learn where things are and what it looks like. So, I mean, who wants this color palette for production? Anyone say yes? So you can see here, obviously we've color coded the plethora out of this thing. And for the keen observers here, we've even shrunk the rows, because the one thing that's always bothered me since these new themes came out were the row thickness, right? To put it into perspective here, if I go here, these rows are kind of fat. They need a diet. I've never liked all this wasted space here. So as part of this, find a way to shrink it. This is all done in CSS files, by the way. I'll try to give you guys a little bit of a peek into that. What you're seeing on the screen here is about 40 different elements that have been modified so far. And there are hundreds of elements to go through. Some of them are extremely insignificant, such as, for example, the white space right here between this yellow and this gray. This white space right here is actually one element with two colors. It's the whole row here. One row is only a single pixel thick, and then the other row is the remaining pixels. So some of them are kind of useless in a sense, but we're trying to highlight sort of the important ones and document those as part of that guide. So this is sort of our test system, but to show you something that looks a little bit nicer and can kind of give you some ideas. I'm very much a fan of dark themes, right? I don't like big white backgrounds, I don't like burning my eyes, and so I try to always find a dark theme if I can. BMC used to have one in their old themes. If you go to the deprecated themes, which, by the way, if ever you were curious, the deprecated themes are still usable. I wouldn't recommend using them because they're not as polished as these new themes, but they're still fully functional. BMC originally intended on removing them shortly after the new themes came out 5, 6, 7 years ago now. I don't remember, but they never actually got rid of them. I don't know if it's just they forgot or if they realized, hey, it's too difficult to remove or what the case is, but they kept them there. So, for the time being, if you try them out and you like them, you can certainly use them. One thing to be aware of, though, with these old themes, it seems like each one of them was designed by a different person. So the way some of the elements presents, like these tabs here, these tabs here look like buttons. If you didn't know any better, they're indistinguishable from these buttons. And these tabs look like buttons as well. And that's a button, so things can kind of be confusing sometimes based on which theme you're using. Oops, reload here, another one. You can see, again, presents a little bit differently. So what we ended up doing is, now you could easily modify one of these existing themes, and it would save you the little bit of work of creating one from scratch. But that's not how I roll. I like to create one. So that's what we've done, and it'll be part of that documentation. And in fact, if I give you a sneak peek of the document, this is the document we're working on. So it's going to be in a similar presentation as how the SQL custom code introduction was from a couple sessions ago, 3-4 sessions ago. If you remember that one, if you were on there. If not, the video is available, the recording on our website, and the document itself is available for download on the BMC community site. If you look up Introduction to SQL Custom Coding. So that's how we're going to present this document here. But to give you an idea, so these are essentially the steps necessary to create a custom theme. Decent amount of steps here, but nothing overly complicated. Basically copying some files, doing some file replaces. And then you'll have the theme here. So if I look at my list here, I now have 2 new themes here that I've injected. So I have the testing theme, which is what you just saw here. If I were to fire it up here, save and reload. And then I have the other one that I'm going to present to you. So the other one is a dark theme. So I wanted to do something that kind of has a lot of contrast versus the regular themes to kind of show off some capabilities. So I'm going to log in here as that theme. So, it's not finished. It's nowhere close to finish. For example, I haven't even done the forms yet. So if I were to open any of these, the forms themselves haven't been done. But it at least gives you an idea of what's possible. And we're going to try and do this in 2 different ways, sort of the beginner way and the advanced way. So if you want to have complete control over every single color aspect, like I've done in this example here, you can do that, and we're documenting all of those elements as we go, right? Here, you want to do the clickable button. It's in this CSS file. There's the default value, the position. So we're kind of going through these and documenting them out. But I'm also going to be doing a basic version of that, which is going to look similar, without necessarily having a GUI, because I'm not a developer, I'm not a BMC developer, I can't hack this in the BMC. But basically, it's going to be something like, here's, the main colors in the theme, just do a find replace and put your own color in there. And to give you an example of what that kind of looks like is, if I go over here, this is the default theme. It's called Dawn. So if you were to look in your list here of themes, it's Dawn. So this is the default theme when you install FootPrints. So it's the orange buttons and all that. And this is an analysis of the colors in there. So what we're probably thinking of doing is grabbing, basically anything that shows up, maybe more than 20 times or something like that, building a process around that and saying, hey, if you want it to be green instead of orange, just find replace this with the equivalent hex value for green. And if you want to transform, magenta to a different color, just find replace, again, in a similar fashion to how version 11 did it. So we're hoping to have that pretty much finalized by next month, so that you can, essentially start creating your themes here. Now, one important point to mention, the way we've done it is creating new theme files. So if I were to show you, where FootPrints is installed, FootPrints, BMC FootPrints, you go into web, default, app, these are all your themes. And you can see the new ones that I've created over here. So in my case, I took Triton Blue as my example, so I basically just cloned it. And then within it, you have the three CSS files that have everything that you need to modify into them. This is considered customization, right? Unsupported by BMC. You're left to your own devices, but that's fine, especially if you know CSS or if you use the guide that we come up here. But the key thing here to mention, and it's the same thing for those of you, which I believe is probably most of you, who customize your login screen and you put your company logo in there. That is also considered customization. Of course, it's very simple customization. You go into your web app, web default, you go into resources, images, and there's your login screen, right? You may or may not remember that because you probably did it, once on initial install, and then that was it, right? I can come in here and twiddle around, save that. Can't save that. Was able to save it, F5, and it shows up. The portal themes, the same thing as this logon background. Whenever you do an upgrade to FootPrints, it reverts any customizations. It basically reverts all the files to their default. So if you do these custom themes, the one thing you'll have to just be aware of is, these two here. These are my custom ones. Copy them, paste them somewhere on your network where all your FootPrints files are, and have them as a backup. And when you run an upgrade to FootPrints, these will get wiped out. You basically just copy them back in and you're done. Just the same as you would copy your logon screen back in. So that's what we have sort of to show off on that for now. So hopefully this gets you guys excited as to potentially what you can do. Because we have some clients, they just want to keep things simple. I just want to put my company colors in there. And we have some clients that, want to take control of everything in a similar fashion to what I did here. So we're hoping that we'll have that documentation for you guys next month that gives you the opportunity to do either approach that you want. And of course, you're not limited to creating just one theme. You can create as many themes as you want following those instructions. And you can have, IT has this color palette and HR has this color palette. You can individualize it like that as well. Really kind of the sky is going to be the limit there, along with maybe, how much time do you have to do this? Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm just seeing a couple chats here. So yeah, so the document that I presented, I'm just showing it to you guys right now. I mean, if you really want to be sneaky, you can take some print screens, but I mean, of course, this is being recorded anyways. But we're going to be publishing this document out to communities next month at next month's session. Because I want to have something a little bit more complete than what we have now. So it's going to be next month. Okay, I think that was the only question there. I'd like to also take maybe the last few minutes here before we wrap up. BMC released the next version of FootPrints this past weekend on Saturday, 2023-01, so the first official release of 2023. I strongly encourage you guys, those of you on the audience who are clients would have received an email from me earlier this morning about it with some highlights. Those of you guys not our clients, you can log into BMC and go and download it, try it out. As always, install it in the test system first and try it out before you put it into production. But it's a pretty impressive version. So probably most notably for those of you on 2022-01 or later, who uses record locking and notice that, oops, record locking hasn't been working, that's now fixed. So record locking is working again. Those of you looking to do email authentication with OAuth, especially if you're doing like Microsoft hosted emails, OAuth authentication on notifications has also been fixed. That one there, I cannot confirm. So I generally like, when BMC says, hey, these defects are fixed, I like to test them out myself. Unfortunately, I don't have access to an OAuth hosted email, so I can't really confirm that one. So I'll take BMC at their word. Couple other nice things though, single clicking attachments, and actually I can kind of show some of this off here. So if I open up a ticket here, where's my Teamworks? I think I did it. Yeah, this one over here. I think was it this one I was playing or the other one? So if you have attachments now, yep, this one here. So you can now single click the attachment and it downloads it right away, as opposed to having to click and then click the download button. So little minor thing, but especially if you're working with attachments a lot, there's going to be a huge kind of saver. Especially if you have to download multiple, click, and you're done. So that's a nice new feature. Deleted attachments now. So if I were to delete this attachment, previously that would not remove the attachment from the repository. It would not remove the physical file from your file system. Not a big deal because generally you're not, deleting a bunch of attachments. But certainly if we're getting into like, hey, we've been using FootPrints for 5+ years, we want to purge out tickets older than 5 years, we could do that, but you couldn't do the attachments. Now you can, so it'll free up some disk space. So that's a very valuable new feature as well. Subscribe column. When I showed off this thing here, you might have noticed, what the heck is this little icon over here? Well, this is the subscribe column. This is the subscribe, what used to be a plain text hyperlink that said subscribe. They've now done it up as an icon. I don't really understand the why an icon over words, but it's a new thing. So now you have an icon, and then if you mouse over, you have whatever the text that was there before. The default is subscribe, but as you may or may not know, if you edit your role permissions, you can rename the word subscribe to be anything. But it now shows up as an icon, but otherwise it's functionally identical to what it was before, which my main pain point is still, there's no way to tell that I've already subscribed to something. I'd like to see the icon be a little bit different or something, give me a visual cue that I've already subscribed to this thing so I don't have to click on it again. Along with that, they've also now changed the way the subscribe column gets hidden. So essentially, previously, there was no way to hide the subscribe column. And so as a workaround, what I always told clients is you can go into one of your themes here, one of your roles. I've got themes on the brain here. You can go into one of your roles, you would go into field permissions and remove access to the global field. So global, which defaults to edit or view on a customer, you don't want to see the global column, set that to no, and now that column disappears. So that was the workaround, and it works. Of course, it doesn't work if you want to use globals but don't want to see the column. But now that's been changed so that the column only shows up if you have the ability to subscribe to a global. And here's where you can change the text right over here. But now, if you can subscribe to a global, the column shows up automatically. If you cannot subscribe to global, then the column doesn't show up. So for those of you guys doing the workaround already, you probably don't have to change anything. Those of you guys that couldn't do the workaround because you are using globals, this now lets you do that. Now, of course, if you want to allow them to subscribe, they have to see the column. There's going to be no other way around that. So that's pretty much the highlights, I think, for this release. There's a couple other fixes in there. There's some minor ones. Actually, one of my favorite ones, I've been bugging BMC about this for years. So the log viewer, the window here for pagination used to only show you one character, one digit. So if you had more than 9 pages worth of logs, you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 until you hit 19, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 until you hit 29, so on and so forth. That's finally been fixed, but of course, it's really only in full if you're using the log viewer. That's it for this month's session. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope especially the portal themes pumped you up. And next month, we will have something concrete for you. In addition to the documentation, I'm hoping to also have like a couple pre-made themes that you can essentially just download the files and paste them into your environment and start using them. Okay, so sorry, going through some questions here. Someone asks a question. Yes, so you still, when it comes to the attachments, you still have to download them, one at a time. There's no like click this one button to download them all. I have to check. I'm not sure if there's a feature request out for that, but I will check and try to make a note to get back to you guys on that next month. Okay, that's all the questions I have for now. I'll maybe keep the line here open for another 30 seconds in case there's a couple more questions that come in. And if not, I hope you guys enjoyed the webinar, and I hope to see you again next month. Thank you.